Chaudhry Abdullah Qasid. I have a small organization which is called The Force of Tomorrow, and this program is also being organized by Force of Tomorrow. Thanks a lot to Dr. Renuma over there, who has entrusted me with the responsibility of arranging this event over here. I thank North-South University for providing their excellent facilities so that this event could be organized over here in Dhaka. And I would also like to now, before beginning the main flow of the discussion, just like to say one small thing, that here in Bangladesh, we always want cultural exchange. We always want to intermingle with people of other countries, share knowledge, and we're always very open to, I mean, that's why it's always said that Bangladesh is a very hospitable country.
My name is Fatima Wasi. I manage a travel and tour operating company in Bangladesh.
Now, please pass it on.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Aisha Binte Tawhid. I'm studying in the Department of International Relations at Jahangirnagar University. And beside that, I'm also running a youth-led organization for community service, where our prime focus is to work for women's rights and promote self-defense skills in women. Our flagship project is training all young women in martial arts. So I'm hoping...
That, I think, deserves a round of applause.
Thank you so much. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. Thank you.
I'm Ibrahim, and I'm studying English language and literature in the University of Dhaka.
Hello, I'm Nasreen Parvin. I work in English department as a lecturer, and I'm happy to be here.
Hello, I'm Jamali, and I'm also working at the English department here at North-South University. I am on a fellowship here for 1 year as an English language fellow. Thank you, nice to meet you.
I'm Prima Chaudhry. We have two Primas here today. I am actually not a full-time professional. I'm honored to be here. I'm a full-time mom. I was a full-time professional a while back, but now I do part-time consulting with organizations like UN Women, IOM, my interest being international women's migration issues. So when I get the time, after managing my two kids, I try my best to contribute whatever I can.
Yes, please go on.
Hi, I'm Lisa. Professionally, I am in the events business. Alongside, I'm also a model, and I'm a master of ceremonies.
I'm Nahid Ahmed, and many of you have a lot of things in common with me. I work for UN Women.
And finally, I would like to, your introduction, please.
Good morning, everybody. I'm here, Professor Khosru from North-South University, and most welcome all of you here, North-South University. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. We've just been joined by another honorable faculty member of North-South University, so we just take her introduction as well. And let's welcome her with a big round of applause, please. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Dr. Dina Forkan. I am a professor at the English department.
Thank you so much. And I would also like to add that I'm also an alumni of this university, and a lot of the participants who are here also happen to be alumni of the University of NSU as well. So we were about to get started with the main discussion, so without further ado, let's get started with that. The first issue that we are going to talk about is women's status in the country. I will start on the Bangladesh side. There is a certain issue that is sometimes misconstrued, that it's a religious law. Whether is it a religious law or is it a misconception or a misinterpretation of religion? Will someone want to respond on that? Yes.
The way the religious laws are written and they are translated, I mean, there's a big gap between the actual translation and the language and the way we get the law from actually the Quran, the laws as we get them from. However, there is a lot of misinterpretation in the of the laws. It's true, but then again, there are certain things which are mentioned in the religious law which is discriminatory towards women.
A little input from my end before maybe we move on to the other aspect of the subject. The thing is that, I mean, in reality, the lesser educated people and in the rural areas, a lot of people are not that much well educated, and therefore whatever the law in reality may be, it gets a lot of misinterpretations that happen through the people who actually interpret the laws for them. So that sometimes leads to more misunderstanding about the religion than what the religion originally has reasons to be misunderstood about. So maybe before proceeding more into this topic, I just want to ask to you and to everyone who's there in USA as well, that do you feel that all the laws in the United States of America provide equal opportunities for women and men? And I would also like to add the other question that it's interesting that even until just a few years ago, I believe there were not even equal voting rights. Whereas interestingly here in Bangladesh and in this subcontinent, we had equal voting rights, and women have been pretty dominant in politics for a very long time in this region. So why do you think that gap has happened over there in the United States? So if anyone would respond.
In the United States, you also have laws that cover everyone. So that would be national laws. And we have laws that are implemented at the state level. And so there is a difference state to state on how we realize our freedoms. And then add into that there is a difference in what we say is your starting place, so where you begin, and your class, and the family that you start with, and your resources will absolutely dictate your opportunity. And so what one person has access to is not necessarily the same as the other. And that also implicates how you are represented or how you realize your freedom. So you might not be able to access or use law because you don't have support. Realize that. This is particularly true for those that are living on the margins by income or challenged identity. So there is not this level space of freedom here in the United States. And for women, that is more frequent than for men because of patriarchy. It is patriarchal here in the United States, and thus women are often in a subservient role. We're less represented in government, and have had loss of a voice in public life historically.
So is anyone else going to want to say anything? Yes, please.
Just to add to what Mark was saying, there's also like the Bangladesh government, there's certainly religious pressures on women in different cultures in the United States. So, for instance,
So interestingly, in spite of the fact that America is perceived as a country that is definitely much more advanced in technology, in society, and in many other ways, so you find that women do have issues where they feel that they are being marginalized. So interestingly, I mean, you have some of the same problems, it seems, that is also prevalent over here in Bangladesh. So it's not too much far apart. Okay, so moving in, yes.
I have just a very specific example.
Yes.
After Boston, I was born and raised Catholic. I'm Catholic, and since I am divorced, I am actually no longer a welcome member of the Catholic Church theoretically. Not to say that I can't enter church or still believe in Catholicism, but it is definitely not accepted.
So interesting to see that religion does play a reasonably strong role even in the American society, which is considerably contradictory to the image that comes across maybe from popular culture, from television and movies. Moving on to another aspect as we have a lot of aspects to take care of. So I would like to ask, this is a general question to all the ladies who are present over here. Do you feel that the rights and privileges of women and men are equal in the modern corporate sector of Bangladesh. What would you like to say about that?
As far as rewards or privileges in the workplace go, or getting promotions or getting seniority is concerned, I think it depends a lot on the woman herself, on how much dedication you're ready to show in your work. It's definitely a challenge, because when I joined this sector, many male colleagues were actually a bit skeptical about how much time I would be able to give to this demanding role. But you know, to persevere, sort of, you have to prove yourself constantly, and I think a woman has to do that more than a man does. That is, my passion towards my work is tested more often than it is for a man. So I think that challenge is there, and I think it's up to the women to actually prove herself in her role.
Why is it that dedication gets questioned?
Because it's questioned a lot. Because I have 2 children, I have taken 2 maternity leaves, which is also quite a bit of a joke at my workplace and on many occasions. So it's always like, will you prefer your family to your work obligation more when it comes to that? But you know, if I can balance, and I can balance between work and home, so why should that be challenged so much? And as a man also needs to contribute time to his family, but why isn't his obligation
I think that's
challenged?
a good point. I think that's a good point that deserves a round of applause. Yes, it's not only that the women who are should be expected to be giving time at home. Anyone else that would like to comment on that? Yes, madam, please.
I personally have started doing a work which is a parenting workshop for urban area, which is not there in our country. And so far I have done 13, including UCBL and Ericsson, quite a few corporate world. And surprisingly, what I have seen that yes, what my friend is sharing here, it's very, very true. I felt there is a discrimination, and the women are challenged more. And to actually take the privilege and the privilege, actually the men, nowadays, I wanted to give the message that the way the women are challenged, the men also need to be challenged that way in their parenting. Because the women are coming actually up nowadays in workplace. After going back home, they are actually cooking and doing a lot of other stuff, even tutoring the kids. But the men may be reading a newspaper, asking for a cup of tea. It's more in our culture. And what good thing I have seen is, in my corporate world parenting session, I had a topic that was the stimulating environment for children with and father's involvement. And I have seen actually after my workshop, a lot of fathers, mostly the fathers, participants I have got for their, parenting in their children. So that was actually wonderful. I feel the change is there. Men are actually now seeing things differently, but still in workplace, it's the ladies who are more challenged.
My question is, hypothetically, in America, from our side, we have 2 students who are not yet married, probably, but if you are in a relationship, that is my expectation if the wife is a housewife.
Okay. Expectation from a lady. So maybe I'll start with you, Mr. Moin, and then I'll come to you, Dr. Khosru.
Well, the first thing first, I consider, I'm not sure whether he agrees with that, I consider my wife a development partner. You see, we distribute the tasks, the loads, so she takes care of certain aspects of the domestic affairs. At the same time, as someone was talking about, like, lady takes care of a lot of things, and the gentleman comes in and starts reading newspaper. Yes, I do that, but not on all occasions. Sometimes she becomes tired and asks me, gentlemen, take care of your daughter, because I have 2 daughters. So I do share. My expectation is that she should have a kind of empathy, understanding about my workload. At the same time, as a gentleman, I should take care of her focus, her workload. Okay. So Actually, I am in a partnership in my
To
family.
be a little bit more specific, would you have any objections or do you have any reservations about your wife being in the workplace or maybe having a full-fledged career if she does?
Oh, no, no, not at all, not at all. She's already, I mean, she's taking care of my finance. I mean, my company is finance, so, I mean, every check I signed, I had to go through a kind of process to get
all
her
right,
approval.
thank you.
Because let me tell you one thing, as a HR personnel, let me tell you one thing, women understand financial management better than if I...
Okay, I think that's
very,
that's a
very
tribute to the
economically
ladies.
understandable for, I mean,
Okay,
this
sir,
gender.
can I have a quick remark from you?
Yeah, from my own experience that though my wife is, you know, the housewife, and really she has been always helping us to develop my career, and she always carrying my kids. Not only that, she also sometimes advised me to develop my career, send out my resume in some places, and I think that she is my good advisor also. And then we understand each other. That's why I think we are quite happy, you know, in our family life, even as well as our professional life.
Yes, certainly. But just there's one point that I just wanted to make, and after that it'll be over to you. I just would like to ask the entrepreneurs over here, the female entrepreneurs, do you find that entrepreneurship is more challenging for females over here than for males, and why? Very briefly to the female entrepreneurs present over here. I think we have 3 female entrepreneurs. Okay, very quickly.
I personally found it very easy here for business. I think nobody has judged me. I think banks give me loans better because I am a woman.
Okay.
I have gotten, yeah, women do get loans easily for small businesses. And I just wanted to add to what she said. When it comes to hiring women,
right.
I do prefer to hire them because I find they're more capable and they're more hardworking. But there is a lack of experienced women or capable women. And I think that's changing, slowly changing. That's due to our system in our culture. I don't think it's religious, I think it's cultural, because there's no religious priest or anyone coming to your house and telling you why you're doing this, why you're doing that. It's just inbuilt in our culture.
So very quickly about entrepreneurship, your experience in entrepreneurship as a woman, very quickly.
So I guess for any business, as a women entrepreneur here in Bangladesh, I would say that it's a fantastic environment we have now, because it's not only in the working place that we get support for, even in the family. I would say that people like mentality and the mindset are changing. Now
That's
even the family is very, very supportive.
Supportive towards female entrepreneurship.
Yes, yes, very much.
Well, my experience personally, it's very good because I have a very supportive family who encourage me from my childhood to be a leader and to pursue what my passion is. So, but not every woman have the same experience from their life, and I believe that if a woman could have a support of their own family and surrounding, that is more important than any other thing. And I think that we always blame the husband, but we should start thinking that the parents are the most responsible for any girl, how to raise them. So I believe that parents have a big role.
So parents have a big role in actually determining the future of the lady.
Determining what women or the girls or the daughters.
Yes, over to you, Renuma. You wanted to ask some questions. Over to you now.
I just want to talk about entrepreneurship. Now, before I was here at Rockport, I had a business for 27 years. And I would say that if you look statistically, you're going to see a lot of women who start businesses based on their balancing their life. So you want to do 2 things. You want to break the glass ceiling, and one way to do it is to have a business. And I can make a comment about the women in technology because I had a video company. And I noticed your camera crew was all male. And I will say though, I walked in the early 80s with a women television crew.
That they're considered rude or ignorant, or that often looked down upon who are taking that dominant role because it comes off in a negative way. But when men take that kind of role, it's accepted and okay, and they're just looked at as leaders. You guys have very similar experiences.
Okay. We have a comment from Dhaka and Renuma. Can we hear her out, please?
The woman successful, let's say she is successful, the first thing first, the male society would look at it as achievement by luck, or the family side or the male partners would look at it as the woman is not enough feminine, actually. Giving more time to your work and giving less time to your family. Of course, we are human and we go out of balance. And then we face these two things, that the achievement is by luck and we are not enough feminine. So discrimination in workplace, if you consider about the legal policies, world is changing, corporate worlds are having more treaties, as you said. They will have point 1, 2, 3 and less, and that will ensure that wages may get same at some point of time. Right now it is not same. Right now females get 60% of what males get as per wage.
My question will be to the American end, is that growing up as a female child, did you feel that the expectations from you was different from that of maybe other male children that were growing up with you, maybe your male siblings? So did you feel that there was any difference in the expectation that your family or the society had from you? Maybe also in terms of the way that your upbringing was, the kind of games that you were made to play. So some comments from your side about your childhood and how that was different from that of a male child.
You made commented earlier, it depends on your parents. I am the oldest child, I was older brother. I always lived in sports. My parents, I just played the cards and I just played the kitchen. So it really depends on the parents. Even in this grade, like my dad was supposed to be a doctor.
So on this side, on that topic as well, maybe we can start with the panelists who have come in a little bit later. So growing up as a female child, did you feel that there was differences in the way that your family had expectations from you as maybe opposed to your siblings and other male children?
Generally, what I feel is, yes, there is an obvious difference in the expectations that a parent would have from a male offspring than a female offspring. It's sadly enough, of course, we've always been encouraged to go along with our career and, you know, be independent and solvent and everything. But there's always the main expectation would be by a certain age to settle down with a nice boy, have a family. That would seem more of sort of like a priority from our culture.
Right.
But yet again, I've always, with my family, they've also encouraged me to go along with my career and everything. But that whole pressure is always still there.
How would you differentiate maybe the way that you were brought up and the way that maybe you're bringing up your daughter? Do you think that, maybe you felt that certain things that were done with you should not have been done in the way that it was, and maybe you're not doing it with your daughter? Is there any difference like that between the way that your mom brought you up and the way that you're bringing up your daughter? So if you can talk a little bit about that briefly.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I'm glad that you are going to come to me because I wanted to respond. I was actually brought up with a sister and no brother by my mother only and no father. So the difference of the only child who spoke first, actually, my mother was my mother and my father, I mean, she encouraged me to do anything and everything that I wanted, and there wasn't really a stigma that, okay, boys do this and girls do this and you should do this and you shouldn't do this. But on the other hand, I did want to describe what I saw living here in the joint household. That is, I lived for 10 years with my husband's parents in the house and my husband's brother and his family. So although I have 2 daughters, I don't have a son, I lived with my niece and nephew, and I definitely saw a difference in the way boys, and this is in my family, I can't speak for all Bengali families, but I definitely saw a difference in the way boys were treated and what they were pushed and encouraged to do. I felt that the girls, the nieces, it really didn't matter if they wanted to stay home from school, that was okay. If they didn't want to do something, that was okay. But the boys, it was very much encouraged and pressured that you have to do well, you have to be the best, you have to be in the limelight, you have to play sports. So I think that actually me kind of coming into this family with some different views, coming from a different culture and different background. They're teenagers now. I've watched them grow up from baby time, so they have different views as opposed to the views that they might have received from their grandfather, my father-in-law, and from their dad and other friends' parents.
So thanks a lot. So basically from what you're saying, it seems that the boys are actually given a lot more pressure to perform, and the girls are actually in a way pressurized not to perform or to take it easy in a way. Do you think that upbringing makes women weaker in any way? So
I want to say one more thing.
Sure.
Although I do have 2 daughters, I expect the best from them in everything that they do all the time.
Thank you so much. And I hope that that's the way that all the parents do talk about and feel about their daughters.
You're right. I would say the way daughters are brought up, that makes that have a strong influence of what they want to be and what they finally become. But again, it cannot be generalized in our context now, because a lot of women or girls do change a lot from the way they had been brought up, because the opportunities are opening up for in our society. And so girls feel that as we talk more and more about women's rights and empowerment and girls' rights, etc. So I think opportunities give young girls and women more vision to do something different. And I think we are feeling that change everywhere, in employment, in education. See the performance of girls in education sector.
So can we have some comments about that? I mean, why is it that women become more vulnerable to these kinds of attacks? I mean, not in general and also in the United States. Yes.
Yes, hi. I'd love to respond to that. Well, for college statistics, it is believed in research that 1 in 4 women, college women, will experience an attempted rape or completed rape during their college years, alarmingly high. But not that many come forward and report sexual assaults. There are certainly a lot of implications, of course, but there has been much more progressive movement towards ending sexual violence on college campuses. And if you were talking earlier about laws, Title IX is a 1972 federal legislation that protects certainly discrimination based on gender. Now, this law has been broadened to include today guidelines for college campuses to follow to prevent violence against women, prevent sexual assault. So our campus in particular has been very progressive and aggressive in creating new policies, providing more prevention education, reaching out to males as to help us counter with us to help fight against violence against women. Very complex issue, not an easy answer. Why do we have so much violence?
Okay. Anyone else who would like to respond on that from the American panel? When you started your organization where you are training women to actually learn martial arts to defend themselves, so what was it that made you think that women also need to learn how to defend themselves and not just rely on the system and the law and order? What made you think that?
All right, thank you for the question. In Bangladesh, a very common scenario is that girls are not safe. There is a social security issue, and everywhere and anywhere, no matter from which class we come from, as in we were studying, I was a student from an English medium school, but even though coming from a good family, living in a good society, women harassment is a very common practice. Like everywhere, when I walk in the streets, when I go to my school or in workplace or even at home, girls are harassed. And if not to a very extreme level, let us not talk about a rape, for example. even like mentally harassment, that is a very common practice. So what we thought is that this comes from the upbringing of children, and it has something to do with how children grow up, how the boys are growing up. And it is a long-term process, but that does not also mean that just because it is a long-term process, we will go sit back and go on suffering every day. So we thought about coming up with a solution. So my organization chose training young women in martial arts. So regular concept comes as in, am I training women to go in the streets and fight all men out there? So that is not the concept. The concept is self-defense is a form of act which does not only make you physically strong, it also allows you to handle things psychologically strongly. When you're in an offensive situation, you know how to deal with it.
Yeah, that definitely deserves an applause. Thanks a lot, Aisha. So is there anyone who'd like to respond on that issue from the American end? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next topic.
We also do provide that empowerment with women as far as protection. Certainly, there is street harassment, we call it, where women walk down the street and they are harassed. And of course, the continuum to sexual violence is a broad continuum. But I just do want to comment that certainly it's a small percentage of males, particularly males are the perpetrators here for sexual violence against women. And the big majority of our males are our partners, and they also help in protect not only learning about one culture, because we do have something that's called rape culture. We can't really get into that concept right now, it's quite complex. But men are also helping to fight this rape culture and promoting respect for women at all times.
Thank you. Dr. Furqan over there would like to make a comment. Yes.
From the Bangladeshi perspective, the mentality of the Bangladeshi people, when any woman is harassed, no matter how serious it is, from very mild harassment to whatever rape or whatever you say, okay, the bulk of the blame always goes on the women. Why are you harassed? Because you are dressed provocatively. That's the attitude that most of the people in our society, I seem to find, have, no matter whether the society is educated or lower class, uneducated.
Right.
It's the same kind of thing. It's the women's fault. So this kind of attitude makes the women who are actually harassed, let's say from a little 5-year-old kid, being harassed by the neighborhood boy. Okay, so they learn somehow, I don't know whether it is instinct or the mothers giving them the vibe that you keep quiet, otherwise you will be called the dirty girl, okay? You will be called naughty, it's your fault. So this attitude towards people that why is it that the victim is always to be blamed here?
So I think what you said is very true, that we really need to change the way that people think altogether, the way people are bringing up their children as well. Exactly. So thank you very much for a good, strong thought. Lisa, how do you see Bangladeshi society viewing women in the glamour and fashion world?
No, actually, you're right. We are not actually seen in a very respectful manner still. It's really unfortunate because if you meet with people from our field, you see that they're just as hardworking, driven young women, but they are always faced with this social stigma that, okay, a model means, oh, that it's questionable. It's really sad. I haven't seen much of a progress in that area, but I'm hoping people will start to recognize that it's still a profession. It is an art, it's our craft. We're trying to just do what we do, and we would want to get some respect from it, that's it.
Over to you, Renuma. Why do you think that is prevailing even in an advanced country like the United States? Anyone would like to respond on that? Yes.
I persist, but when you were talking, I was reminded of the Oscars recently. We actually gave up this award, I think, said that the people participating in the ceremony should not be wearing provocative costumes where the showing and whatnot. Not really quite sure why women are continue to be objectified even in that state. But kind of bringing back to the business world, I used to teach a
then we would sort of say, make sure you don't wear anything that, you don't go for an interview, don't wear anything that detracts from you yourself, which means no cut clothes, preferably a suit that covers most of your, sort of
Right.
so still even here, there's that sort of professional way.
Right.
Modest.
Great. So, interestingly, I want to bring over the next subject, which is that of society's perception of single and married women. So, I would just like to ask the question first to the American end. Do they face any kind of social barriers? Single women, single mothers in general?
I can just answer from my perspective. I'm a single woman. I started working as civil government 4 years ago, and I found out that I'm in one of the most wonderful places where I didn't experience any discrimination, and it's 90% of my faculty staff are women. So there is no issue of harassment there. But from my perspective, after coming to America, I didn't experience those violence. But anybody else would like to give up? Go ahead.
Yes.
I actually come from a rather traditional family, and so although no one will come out and say it, because it's not socially okay anymore, I have heard my mother say about my female cousins who are getting in their mid-20s that they need to find somebody, that they need to get married and start a family because they're getting older. And I thought, no, this is interesting because you've never communicated this to my brother or any of my male relatives that, my female cousin is now 27 and she's getting older, she needs to find somebody. I thought this is very strange.
Start with this Prima who's sitting nearest to me. Prima.
Yeah, I wanted to contribute to the same statement because recently what happened was my sister-in-law, who's working in Canada, she's 28 and she came to Bangladesh for a visit. 28. Now in Bangladesh, 28 is pretty old in terms of getting married. Now there's a reason, there's a logic behind it. She's doing very well career-wise. She's working as a financial consultant in Toronto. She's a very attractive, very confident young lady, but I felt bad that she came here to visit us, her parents, spend time with us, and there seems to be this underlying current, from all of us that, okay, since you're here, why don't we set you up with someone, or do you have anyone? Because you see, my family is the type that we'd be so happy if she just announced that she has a boyfriend and there is marriage in her mind. It could be 2 years from now, but we need to know that that's what's happening, right? And for her, that was a different kind of pressure because she's like, she couldn't wait to go back to Canada because she's like, all of you just spoil my vacation. She's not getting time, with my children because whenever she's playing with them, my mother-in-law will come and say, don't you think you're ready to have some of your own, Instead of playing with Prima's kids, let's move on and have your own kids and stuff like that. There's a biological factor as well. We cannot deny that for women. And yes, after 40, it might be difficult to conceive. Maybe that's why, people in the Western world where women get married later, the number of children is also limited, right? Because there are risks involved. And we realize that. So ideally, I think the period to be married socially from a Bangladeshi or from a worldwide perspective is, I guess, between 20 and 30. You should,
right,
you should,
guess.
if you want kids.
Thank you very much for that. Prima, yes, Prima, if you could share maybe some of your own experiences.
Well, I'm single, never been married. I'm 38 now, so which is quite an age. So, and my parents are really supportive towards this idea that I'm not getting married. But the only problem that I suffer, there is no man for me to getting married because a woman with a home, house, car, whatever you have, you just don't have a man. So I'm really suffering for having a man in my life. And I think this man gets sometimes very shaken by a woman who owns everything, have their own life. They don't want to move with me. They don't want to take me either. That's the thing, kind of a thing that I suffer every day now. Well, that's not suffering. That's good thing for me, but that's also a kind of a social thing that is, I have heard not my parents, but other people saying that if you are overqualified, I don't know what is that means though. When you are overqualified, then you don't really get the right partner for you. Either you get lesser qualified partner or you get an older dad. So that's the situation here. As a single woman here, stay alone, that there is a lot of social logistics, a lot of other thing that you need to maintain which is not there, which I'm sure that in USA you don't suffer much of those issues. Like here, if I am single, that if a little things like any electrical problem or plumbing problem, you cannot handle it. It's so difficult. It's quite close to impossible to fix it by yourself, being a single woman. And people are not really accustomed of the idea, a woman being single, all alone in a house, day in, day out. So you always come across these stairs, like the, as you said, it's like such a bizarre stairs that why she is the way she is. So that's another thing which is interesting for me to deal with, but that is there.
Renuma, if there are any qualified guys out there who might be interested in Prima, you can definitely, send her an email, and this video conference could even act as a little bit of a matchmaking session. So your experiences in brief minutes.
I was a single parent for 12 years. People would definitely give a look like, why are you single? And in Bangladesh, I have observed one more thing, with due respect to all men, that they have their own way of showing their interest on single women, actually. Yes, they do. And though they have a proper family life at home, but they want to try with women actually who are single. And I have a tip for all these single women, that people who are single and especially who are mother of kids, they should maintain themselves in a way that surely we work in men's world end of the day. I would say that. And surely we work, since we are doing business or we are working in an office, we'll have to deal with all men, managers, boss, all men, In that case, you'll have to have such personality that you don't let others to look you down upon. That should be there. And I think that is very much possible to lead a single life with pride and prestige. That's what I did, and that's what I had. And now I'm married, but I can see the both side actually. The life with a husband and life without a husband, it's pretty difficult here. It's pretty different here. Why life without a husband is not very easy.
Right.
Are single women in the U.S. suffering or facing problems? Yes, they do some a lot of time, but not always. It depends. It's a different kind of suffering. For example, my friend who is divorced and raising 2 kids, she's actually not divorced. Her husband just disappeared. When one of the kids started not being doing well at school, the school started, and the teacher started trying to find out that maybe it's because of the kids, but she is a single mother. There's no mother raising the child.
Right.
All the problem with the kids about a lot of I'm originally from the education department, and my PhD is in education. A lot of research and study we do about those children who are struggling and struggling with raising a single household. When you see a single father, it's completely different. They look at the single father as wow, amazing, God, he's doing a good job. The female neighbors would try to help him or cook for him because he's a single father. They wouldn't help with a single mother. And unfortunately, it's going on here. And sometimes they blame him for being a single mother, having his child depending on the solution.
Right.
But we don't have kind of that speaker pointed at like when men look at a single woman differently, kind of trying to attract her or having some kind of an extra relation with her. It's not really have this here.
Right. Thank you. Thank you so much for your comment. So my question to the American panel is that generally it is found that teen pregnancy is considered a social problem in the United States, that it is something that parents and society in general would not like to encourage, but it's a problem that continues to prevail. So would you like to comment a little bit about why you feel that teen pregnancy is an issue that is prevailing very strongly in the United States, and then we can talk a little bit about that from the Bangladesh perspective. Over to you.
I can't speak to the United States much, but I can certainly speak to teen pregnancy rates in Monroe County over the past 10 years have significantly dropped. Because we have in New York City, most recently what's called comprehensive sexuality education in schools. And generally speaking, teens in Monroe County have had an easier time to access birth control.
Okay, I'd just like to, bring the subject over here briefly. Do you think that teen pregnancy is a problem in Bangladesh, or is it something that is a disguised problem? Because
it's
we don't
a disguised problem because first of all, what I wanted to say is if you think about rural society in Bangladesh, most of the teens are married. So it's not like a question of teenage pregnancy because they're unwed, they're wed and they're mothers, and that's a different story altogether.
Right.
So, and it's not that we don't have out of wedlock pregnancies, we do, but they're taking care of it in a different way and it's absolutely not documented. Like when a young unmarried girl conceives, the last person she would ever go to is the police or even a proper medical center because she's so ashamed that this happened to her, whether it was consensual or whether it was forced. So what she would do is she would go for the cheapest and the most secret method, probably take some pills or something like that. And she wouldn't go to a proper clinic at all because what would the doctors say? What would the people say?
Okay, we are now coming to the end of the discussion. The last issue that we'd like to talk about is Western influence on our lifestyle. So whoever would like to respond to it, let's have a little discussion on that. That how much do you think that Western influence has influenced our culture, and has that changed the role of women in our country and the perception about women in our country? Yes, okay, I'd like to start with Ibrahim.
Definitely in course of time, Western influence has influenced us, Western culture. And firstly, what we saw that there were the things that shouldn't have come, those came first. For example, the dress up and those things, we were influenced at first. But in course of time, in the recent 5 to 6 and 10 years even, the women especially, they have been influenced by the education and the treatment, the technology and participation in entrepreneurship. All those are coming. So I think the culture, the Western influence is positive now.
So you feel that Western influences come in education, in culture, in social life, in networking, in the workplace, in all of these places?
I think actually it's a combination of both. Because I was going to say, in the time that I've been here, one thing that just came to my mind is, it's, as I mentioned, very common when you get married here to live in your, that is the bride, she moves from her house where she lived with her mother and father and grew up to her husband's house, which is his parents' house, which is what I did when I came here. But I would say in the last 5 to 6 years, it's not that common, and it's much more common for couples. They might move in with the in-laws for a little while. I mean, the bride, she might move in with his parents for a while, but more often than not, they're taking their own apartment or they're moving out sooner from the parents' house to be on their own. Second thing that I wanted to say is, I think because of the increase in technology, that it is global, because people from here are talking to people from all over the world and seeing how they live and what they do and when they do it. So they could definitely be influenced by that as well.
Okay, over to you, Ms. Shilpi. I just want to ask you a very brief question. Do you think that, I mean, a lot of people have a tendency of trying to say that maybe globalization isn't something that we should embrace. What is your view on that? Do you think we should go for globalization?
Definitely. I think we could learn more from each other. The cultural aspects, I think if we submerge in each other's cultures, we will get to take the best from each other's cultures.
Okay.
So,
best from each other's cultures. Madam, over to you. What are the aspects of our culture that you think might be a good idea for people in other countries, maybe even in the United States of America, to take from us?
If you look at it as in a positive way, we can turn it into, I mean, it can be beneficial for both. The Western culture as well as us.
Right.
We are learning a lot of things from the Western culture, and I think that a lot of Western women are learning a lot of things from us. The feminine factor, what makes Bengali women and feminine, that is something I think they respect a lot, and they are learning, they are adopting that, the bonding in the family that we have here. That is something they respect and they're adopting.
Thank you very much.
When we look at our husbands as somebody, my protector, my benefactor and all the things, there is also a little bit of a positive thing in there. And that is what keeps the family bond together. You know, no matter what, I'm not saying, I'm not condoning it or I'm not promoting it or anything.
Right.
There are things which in our culture too, which promotes family bonding and what to say, mutual respect more, and which I think the Western culture can easily adopt.
Emulate from us. Okay, over to you, Renuma. What do they have to say about that? What are the kind of things that maybe the ladies in America may want to learn from ladies here in Bangladesh, from our culture?
Well, I think that something that is really fascinating here, and I think that maybe Bangladesh or other country can benefit of it, is actually the way they get together to solve a problem here in the society. There's a lot of kind of what you call it NGOs sometimes, or certain groups. Women here, sometimes they stand for the right, and they get together and they talk about it, and they have a plan to protect the rights. So that when they feel like harassed or when they feel something, there is some kind of a system where they can move. And they do this a lot here in the society about every single issue, not only for women issue, but a lot of problems that can be solved without waiting for the government to solve the problem. Have to fight for.
Thank you so much. I think we've come to the, yes, there's one comment over here.
To some extent, I have some disagreement about the globalization that you are going to, exercise in the corporate culture definitely. You see the title of this, today's discussion, the differences in roles and perceptions. If you think about this, the perception, the Bengali, the female women here wearing the three pieces and shari, you can see, because we cannot ignore it. Whatever the company like in US are operating business in Bangladesh, and you can see their corporate culture is different than operating business in New York. Why? Because it is Bangladesh. You have to consider the Bangladeshi society and Bangladeshi people perception and their mentality.
Right.
So that's why when the corporate, the culture, and it is different. You see, we call it is, the multinational company operating that business like in China.
Right.
You have to go the Chinese way. When you're operating business in even the Arabian world, you have to go the Arabian way.
Right.
Coming here in Dhaka, have to the Bangladeshi way because of the perception.
Right.
So the perception makes you different, and then you have to make the different culture.
Right.
So you should not ignore the culture. Better you can appreciate the culture and operating your business the way, and you have to appreciate the globalization.
Thank you, sir.
I think there are many things that we can actually learn from both cultures. In American culture, we're brought to be strong by ourselves. We grow up, we go to school, we get a job, and then we move out and we develop our own families. I think this can be exchanged with the Bengali culture, but you also have a great strength that I've noticed in Asian cultures that we're lacking, which is the extended family. I believe an extended family takes a lot of stress, pressure off of being able to raise children, being able to pay for your bills, and being able to obtain an education together. You move as a family unit, and the American culture has kind of moved away from that being family. And I think those are very good things that we can exchange, because you have a lot of women over there that are doing big, great things in regards to business. And that's
Thank you very much. I think that deserves a round of applause from our side. We applaud you for appreciating that aspect of our culture. So concluding remarks from you, madam.
Yes, I would just like to say thank you to everyone over there in Bangladesh. I'd like to say thank you to North-South University, the program Voices of Tomorrow, our esteemed panelists, our students. We really appreciate learning from you today. It's been a very exciting program for our students, for our faculty and staff, and we'd love to continue this adventure. And I'd certainly like to thank Renuma for all of her organization and allowing this program to happen for us. So from the College of Rockford, from New York, we'd just like to say thank you so much. We appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Karen. Just concluding remarks from maybe one or two panelists present over here, and then we will conclude with a note from the university authorities. Yes. Yes, a concluding remark from you, madam, very briefly.
Eye-opening session, in fact, because the problems or the perceptions that were discussed from the US point of view was something that I didn't really have an idea about. The way you talked about how women are perceived in your society.
The thing is that problems are same at every corner of the world, and since you are sitting there, we are sitting here, we are learning, we are changing, and we will change for our kids, we are changed for our daughters. And when a mother changes, everything changes.
That was a word on the role of motherhood. Yes, concluding remark. Lisa, you wanted to say something.
The problems that you guys face is very similar to the problems that we face, and I have to say, whether it's good or bad, globalization or Western influence or not, I must say that it has only helped us open our eyes, broaden our minds. It made us learn new things.
So from North-South University, if you'd like to conclude, and then I'll just wrap it off with a last remark from myself.
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm going to say that women don't just create future leaders, women are the future leaders.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
So, and I think this kind of program where women so far, thousands of miles far away are having the opportunity to talk together, I think we are bonding together to make that future leader who's going to make this place a better place. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
North-South thanks you very much, and I hope that we will have lots of opportunities like this in future so that we can carry the flag.
Wow.
Women.
Thank you. Thank you very much.